start with, um, well, good evening, everyone. I will say hi to everyone. As I just mentioned, two of our directors have been excused. And if I'm sure you've taken a look and have read everything in your packet, I'm guessing we're going to probably have a fairly short meeting. Uh, Clearly, we take whatever time is necessary, but I did want to start out the meeting by saying that, originally we were planning on diving deep into the budget and talking about fare increases, pass increases, parking increases, things like that, to figure out where we should uh, go to the board with some of our recommendations. But you've all received an email from both our chair, Patrick O'Keefe, and our CEO, Johnson, and the I will just tell you the process right now as it stands, it can change, but as it stands, send in your suggestions, your recommendations on but saving money, whether it's cutting the budget, finding efficiencies, raising revenue. We're still taking recommendations, suggestions, and we are going to be compiling them all into, quite frankly, a very large document. But CFO Mackey, and I haven't mentioned this to you yet, but I was hoping that we could sit down with Director Arcuri and try to group them together and look for duplicates and turn it into a more of a pretty document so that we're going to be talking about those items at our next board meeting. So our chair, Patrick O'Keefe, he had suggested that we proceed in a very similar manner that we used when we were going through Senate Bill 150. So our chair will be clearly running that meeting, taking each item, and we're not going to be actually voting on the issues, but what our chair is interested in doing is to sort of get a flavor for where the board wants to go with it. So if we're interested in the item that's, will be first on the table, we'll have a general discussion, or maybe we just say a quick yes, no, but quite frankly, all we would be doing is sending it to staff, asking for a more thorough review with estimates, whether it's a revenue estimate or a budget cut for savings. And they would come back at the June board meeting, and that's when we would start to select what we'd like to see in the 2027 budget. Consequently, I tell you all of that primarily to let you know that's one of the reasons why we have a shorter committee meeting tonight, because a lot of the work is just being shifted directly to the board. So then let's start here. So the Tuesday, May 12th, 2026 Finance and Planning Committee will now come to order. We are convened as of, actually it was 5:30 p.m. I would respectfully ask everyone attending this meeting to mute yourself unless you are recognized to speak. So during today's meeting, we are providing communication access real-time translation, also known as CART. Anyone who would like access to this service should send an email to the RTD board at rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com, and a link will be provided. Additionally, the CART transcript can be automatically translated for anyone who would like access to a live transcript of this meeting in Spanish. A live stream of this meeting is also available via RTD's YouTube page. So I would now like to call the roll for the committee members. Committee Vice Chair Arcuri.
Here. Had to find the unmute.
Quite all right. Quite all right. Director Geisinger. I'm pretty sure she's at DIA now, ready to board for her trip to London and beyond. Second Vice Chair Guchenritter.
I am here.
Okay. Director Guzman.
I am here.
Director Larson.
Here.
Director Rusha. Okay, and as I had mentioned before, she had texted me asking to be excused because she is not feeling well. And of course, myself. So for the record, I see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 present, so we have a quorum. I would like to open public comment to anyone who would like to address the committee regarding any topic listed in the published meeting agenda for the current and immediately preceding agendas. If you wish to speak and have not already done so, please either raise your virtual hand or press *9 on your phone. During this time, the committee will not offer any direct comments or responses. However, if you would like to be contacted regarding your public comment, please email the RTD board office at rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. Okay. Mr. Kroll, are there any hands raised for public comment tonight?
Yes, Committee Chair Banker, this is Jack Kroll, Executive Manager of the Board Office. I do want to also note that Chair O'Keefe is present. I do not see any other directors present at this time. If any others join, I will be sure to let you know. We do have one attendee present who has raised their hand in desire of providing public comment, and that individual is Keith Brooks.
Oh, Mr. Brooks, if you would like to begin your comments, you've got 2 minutes.
Hello, just a couple things on tonight's agenda. One, with the procurement of 60-foot buses for Colfax BRT. I mean, bus procurement, as is being drilled into us over the last few years, is absolute hell. But I would strongly recommend, and this would include possibly even delaying the procurement by a bit, but finding other transit agencies to go in with to get some more economies of scale. Another thing more generally, and I will send this to every board member before the next board meeting. I've been working on some absolutely deranged looking flow charts. I feel it's important for the committee but especially the board at the next meeting to put some lines in the sand of what is and is not acceptable in the 2027 budget, namely starting from the perspective of no service cuts and then working from there, just so we aren't beating around the bush. Will we, won't we, what's the agency going to do? Just putting that in a line in the sand early. I don't envy your position, but good luck and thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Kroll, anyone else that would like to speak to our committee?
Committee Chair Banker, there are no further speakers in the queue, and in anticipation of your subsequent question, there were no additional written emails submitted as public comment for this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Well.
So then with no other participants in the queue, we will close the public comment period at this time. With regard to information from external entities, there are no presentations from external entities this month, so we will move to recommended action. So the first action is for the Design Support Consultant On-Call Contract Awards. So for the Board of Directors to authorize the General Manager and CEO or her designee to award on-call work order contracts to AECOM, HNTB, and Benich to provide design support consulting services for the agency's infrastructure investments. The contracts are for 3 base years with 2 additional 1-year options and with a cumulative total of all 3 contracts not to exceed $35 million for a full 5-year period. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move that, Director Guzman.
Okay, Director Guzman, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Director Kuchenrichter, thank you. So I would now like to ask Jyotsna Vishwakarma. I apologize for that. I will try harder. She is our Chief Engineer, Planning and Infrastructure Services, to present this item. Would you like to begin?
Good evening, Committee Chair Banker, Vice Chair Arcuri, and committee members. As introduced, I am Jyotsna Vishwakarma, RTD Chief Engineer. And I do have a tough name. I didn't name myself. I apologize. So,
I apologize.
no. It's all good. I'm here to present the recommended action requesting authorization for the general manager and CEO or her designee to award on-call design support contracts to AECOM, HNTB, and Benish. These consultants will provide design support for RTD infrastructure investments on an as-needed basis. The combined total for all three contracts will not exceed $35 million over 5 years. This procurement structure provides RTD with a flexible and responsive mechanism to support future infrastructure investments, asset renewal work, and other agency priorities when appropriate. The work supported under these contracts may include renovations, modernization efforts, state of good repair projects, technical engineering support, emergency repairs, and reimbursable work requested by external agencies or partners. These are task order-based contracts, meaning work will only be authorized on an as-needed basis and funded through individual project budgets approved through the RTD's budget process. If there is no identified or funded work, the contracts will not be utilized. This approach gives RTD the ability to move more efficiently and strategically when project needs emerge, while maintaining appropriate oversight and alignment with approved project budgets. This procurement structure also provides RTD timely access to specialized engineering expertise that would not be practical or cost-effective to maintain fully in-house at all times. The recommended actions support RTD's long-term infrastructure delivery goals and helps position the agency to advance projects with greater agility, coordination, and technical readiness. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Any directors that have questions or comments, please let me know here. And let's see, Director Guzman.
Thank you.
Ask your question or comment.
Ms. Vishwakarma, thank you for bringing this to us and staff as well. Just a question, I mean, and kind of a comment for the board members, the committee members. We have a lot of moving parts right now with downtown rail reconstruction. We're having conversations with the city and county of Denver about the National Women's Soccer League Stadium, Burnham Yard. We're going into further work with the Joint Service Committee and how that's going to affect Union Station. I'm not sure that all that work can be done by our staff alone. And so this recommendation, you know, the line about this being, I want to get it right, the fluctuating needs of people, power, availability, and bringing the specialized skills in-house being not financially viable at this point, allowing this contract to move forward gives us that ability when we would need to rely on those skills. And, you know, some of this work is not, some of these things won't be realized until 2030, but the work is done well in advance of that. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to approve this, and I hope everybody would help move it forward. I think it supplements our staff and provides us with what we need. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Guzman. Director Arcuri.
Thank you. To echo Director Guzman, I do believe that this is an innovative approach, and I'm supportive of the approach, but probably just because I am so new, I just have questions. If this is a common practice at RTD, and if $35 million over a 5-year period, if that's standard, since I don't have any historical trends to look at. And then also these 3 companies that will be sharing this potential work. Are these 3 companies you work with on a consistent basis now, or are they brand new partners? Thanks.
Chief Engineer Vishwakarma.
Thank you, Director Banker. Vice Chair Arcuri, thank you for the question. We've had design consultant services in the past based on the volume of work that is in front of us. So this time around, we took a look at what we might expect to arrive in the period of next 3 to 5 years. None of us can predict the future, but as staff, we took the best guess we knew, knowing things that were emerging in the region, knowing our assets that need state of good repair work, and initiatives we might want to launch ourselves. And this is our best guess based on a number of factors. It is somewhat higher than has been in the past, but then our workload is also elevated because of state of good repair needs. So that was the first part. And we have worked with these 3 firms in various capacities. They are not new to us, but firms also change. So we ran a very robust process to evaluate everybody's qualifications to see that they were the right fit for us. And I think I missed a part of, you asked 3 questions and I missed one. Do you mind repeating it? And I see Ms. Johnson has her hand raised.
Yes, I do too. But Director Arcuri, did you want to repeat your third part of the question?
Okay, now I'm trying to even remember the third part of my question. Yeah, about how much, okay, I understand that we think the number is going to be bigger. You do have experience with these 3 firms, so you feel comfortable working
Yes.
with them. I frankly can't remember my third question. If anyone else can.
You're
I
fine.
do.
So, CEO Johnson, yes.
Yes, thank you very kindly. So if I can just supplement Ms. Vishwakarma's response. The question you posed was, is this something that RTD had typically done as we move forward? Is this something within the transit industry? And more to the point, when we look at the firms that we have identified, this is a common practice in the industry, and we have talked about it going forward by virtue of having these 3 consultancies being more or less on the bench when we need work. This will enable us to do things more expediently, as we won't be putting out solicitations when we have work to come upon us. We basically will be in a position whereby we can leverage a task order by asking them to put forward the cost of the work that needs to be done going forward. It's something that really has garnered a lot of support in the industry. More to the point as well, as it relates to the comments that were made, considering where we are looking to reduce our deficit, and leveraging subject matter expertise external to the organization puts us in a prime spot, because if we don't leverage any work, then we're not expending these monies, but we'll have them readily available as we move forward. And then you asked the question about the $35 million over the course of the contract duration. When you think about what the work is that we may be leveraging, this is a good place to have monies identified, because for all intents and purposes, contingent upon what it is that we have to do, we may not leverage all this money going forward, but we already have it earmarked for the work in the case that we need some kind of emergency work that's done for, bridges or things of the like. So with that, I will yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Director Guttschritter has got a question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Banker. That really kind of answered my question. My question was just going to be around how, is this a recurring contract where we've done similar things in the past with these consultants, and then I was going to ask about kind of the size of the contracts in the past, but I got what I needed out of the answer to Director Arcuri's question, so thank you.
Great, thank you. And then Chief Engineer Vishwakarma, I also was wondering how many, do you know it must be within your area, how many engineers do we have employed now at RTD that are involved with these kinds of projects? Because it seems like we always have rail issues, we've got facility issues, you know them far better than I do. So what kind of staffing do we have in this area?
So Director Banker, we use the term engineers when in reality we have management staff, we have engineering staff, other technical staff, and other support staff that deal with infrastructure, engineering, and delivery projects. We number 52 in those divisions, and several people are devoted to very technical matters like keeping track of our surveying and property and utility mapping, which is a foundational piece in all projects. So roughly, I would say about 48 people devoted at various levels with different skill sets that are available to take on this type of work.
Okay.
And they comprise different disciplines. Engineering has many specialized disciplines and technical skills like project management and other things that go into implementing a project.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I see none. So, let's see, to make it easy, are there any no votes on this action? Anybody need to unmute? So with that, I will say there are 5 yeses and it passes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, second action for tonight is the boundary map updates annexation. So for the board to approve the revised district boundary map and authorize the board secretary to certify the boundary map and description and approve the inclusion of the newly annexed areas in director districts as follows. Number 1, BNSF annexation number 1, District K, which is Director Whitmore. Item 2, First Creek Pond annexation, District F, which is Director Chandler. Item 3, Page Property, District I, which is in my district. And item 4, Union Reservoir, number 4, and Weld County Road 26, District I, which is also in my district. I would like to have a motion. Do I have a motion? Anybody want to?
So moved.
Thank you. Director
I can second.
Kushner moved. And second was
Director Guzman.
Guzman. Thank you. I didn't hear you. So with that, I'd like a presentation from Mr. Quinn.
Thank you, Chair Banker. This is Chris Quinn. I am a project manager within the planning department. And just for a little bit of background, as you may recall, at the March 10th Finance and Planning Committee meeting, we had provided the board with a presentation on the district's boundary with a focus on how the boundary may expand over time through annexation. And as noted in the March 10th presentation, the most common way that new land enters the district is through municipal annexation. And that is to say, whenever a jurisdiction on the RTD boundary annexes land outside the district, that new land automatically becomes part of the district. Now, over the last several months, there have been 4 new areas that have been annexed by local jurisdictions that have resulted in new land coming into RTD. So tonight we're requesting that those new areas be assigned to the director districts as specified in the board report. But there is one item that I would like to note. Typically, the annexations that we see range an area from approximately, maybe an acre to several acres. One of these is fairly large, specifically the BNSF annexation, and that one is almost 4 square miles. So it's a bit unusual compared to what we usually do see. So just wanted to make note of that for the board for your knowledge. And with that, I'd be happy to respond to any questions that the committee might have.
Do you have any questions or comments, folks? I believe it's Dr. Larson. Yes.
Not unless I've gotten a doctorate or
Not yet.
I didn't know about. I'm just wondering, I mean, why do these communities want to annex, and do we do any kind of analysis about sort of what potential services that we might have to expand in order because of these annexations, or the amount of sales taxes we might obtain from these annexations? That's my question.
Oh, Mr. Quinn?
Thank you. Typically, when a local jurisdiction, when they do the annexation, which automatically brings the land into the district, we have not done any kind of analysis to determine what the impact might be, simply because usually they're only a few acres. So we figure the impact to be negligible. When an entity petitions to come in, so in an instance where we have the choice, the district have the choice, or the board has the choice on whether or not that area should come in, then we typically do run at least some kind of high-level analysis of what it would take to provide service and what kind of sales tax, what kind of revenue we might receive from that area coming into the district. What's unusual about this one, like I said, is just the sheer size of the BNSF. The BNSF annexation, and given its location, quite frankly, it obviously would be quite a challenge to provide service to that area.
Can I follow up?
Yes, please.
So why is that one called the BNSF annexation?
That is just, so it's town of Lochbuie made this annexation, and that's what they titled it. The intent of the land is for a BNSF intermodal center.
Do we have any choice with these? I mean, you said this is not a petition, they've just decided, so is this just kind of, you're just passing these by us for our information?
We pass them by so as to be able to assign a director the new area to a specific director district. In the past, and it doesn't seem to be coming up recently, but in the past, there have been instances where it's been very kind of a gray area whether the new area should go into one district or another. So that's why we seek board approval.
Okay, but just sorry, one more. In the case of this BNSF annexation, I mean, so it sounds like they're trying to set up an some kind of transit center, which presumably they would be wanting service from us for, and I guess we don't know if this is, if there's any incremental sales tax associated with this or not, but there's nothing we can do about it anyways, other than decide which director to assign it to. Is that fair?
That would be correct.
Okay.
I would also like to add, I think the BNSF item that you've mentioned is way out by Hudson. And I have read in the paper that they're trying to move a lot of the freight out to the Hudson area, Eastern Plains, to get it mostly out of the metro area. And the UP and BNSF are building. They're doing quite a bit of building out there because I think that's going to be one of their main hubs to get it out of the metro area. So, and then also I should also add that the two pieces that are now going to be in my district. One of them, I'm not even quite sure there's anybody living in the area. Right now, it's a water dog park, and it's also so-called a sailing. I'd even hesitate to call it any kind of sailing hub there. It's pretty small. And then the piece in Erie just keeps growing. They keep expanding. They're building houses like there's no tomorrow, thousands at a time. So so as far as I know, in my two areas, there's no retail. Mr. Quinn, did you have something to add?
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, to your point on the dog dog
The
beach or
dog
whatever
water
it is.
park?
Yeah,
Yes.
my understanding from talking to representatives from the City of Longmont staff is that one was brought in specifically for, there was some right of way need. So it just kind of included the whole piece. So, but you are correct, there is no residential or commercial activity there except for, I think they said there's a soda stand.
Yeah, it's pretty bare, but
So
it's still
don't
a very
imagine a lot
pretty
of
area.
sales tax.
Yeah. Any other comments, questions? Okay, so then let's just start. Are there any no votes on this action? So I hear none, so it will pass. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Quinn.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help here. So for the third and final action, 60-foot bus, rapid transit bus procurement for the board to authorize the general manager and CEO or her designee to enter into a contract with New Flyer of America, Inc. to purchase 47 60-foot articulated buses designated for use on the East Colfax Avenue Bus Rapid Transit BRT route for a total not to exceed a cost of $66,956,435 or $1,424,605 million per vehicle, inclusive of applicable tariffs, estimated to be about 7% of the purchase price, and including an option to purchase up to 80 additional buses during the 5-year contract term. So, do I have a motion?
So moved, Director Guzman.
Second.
And Director Guzman. Okay, so for this, I would like to ask our COO, Patrick Preusser, and Greg Smith, Deputy Chief Operations Officer for Bus, to present this item.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair Banker, and good evening, directors. I'm presenting the recommended action to authorize RTD to enter into a contract with New Flyer of America for the purchase of 47 articulated 60-foot buses with an option for up to 80 additional buses over the 5-year contract term. The total not to exceed amount for the initial 47 vehicles is $66.9 million, which includes an estimated 7% tariff allowance. I would like to emphasize upfront that these are replacement buses, not project-specific buses. While they'll operate on the East Colfax BRT corridor, once service begins, they're directly replacing 47 buses in our existing 60-foot fleet that were placed into revenue service in 2014 and 2015. And of course, now are approaching their end of useful life. This procurement aligns with RTD's fleet management plan and supports our strategic priorities of community value, customer excellence, and financial success. Replacing these buses now will strengthen system performance, improve reliability, and reduce unscheduled maintenance, and of course, optimize our life cycle costs. So a few notes on the procurement process itself. New Flyer is currently the only domestic manufacturer that meets federal Buy America requirements for 60-foot articulated buses. An RFP was issued in September of 2025 and closed in December. Although there were 52 firms that downloaded the solicitation, RTD received a single responsive proposal from New Flyer. Staff, of course, conducted a technical and cost evaluation and confirmed that the pricing is fair and reasonable. While these buses include BRT-specific features such as third door, additional ramps, infotainment, and internal bike racks, the fleet replacement needs exist with or without the East Colfax BRT project. Some components within the bus supply chain do fall under the Presidential Proclamation 10984. While these buses are built domestically, certain imported subassemblies may incur tariffs. The manufacturer has agreed to a max cap for the tariffs, and RTD will only pay actual tariff charges once documented. Financially, 51 million of this purchase is already budgeted in 2026 carry forward. The remaining amount, approximately 15.9 million, will be supported through a budget transfer for the from the Southwest Corridor Curves Capital Program, which will be needed in 2027 rather than 2026. This recommended action will go to the full board for consideration on May 27th. So that concludes the overview, and happy to try and answer any questions that folks may have.
Okay, thank you, CEO Preußer. I see Director Guzman, you've got a question or a comment. Go for it.
A question. I cannot find it, and I'm sorry. I was trying to get the date early, but I couldn't find it. Did we not agree and approve for the agency to enter into a situation with other states where we can leverage purchase power for over-the-road coaches earlier this year or late last year? And I'm asking that question based on previous comment during this meeting, but also as a form of cost savings for us going forward, or potential cost savings while we procure these new buses. And just for the record, we did receive the update on going after federal funding to do exactly what this is requesting. We just need to authorize the use of those funds in doing this. So just wanted to make that point. But if somebody can clarify the first one, which is we did do that, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We did do that, and we used that for a recent procurement we did for over-the-road coaches. So we were part of that Washington co-op for that.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, sorry,
CEO
would we be
Johnson?
using
sorry.
that same agreement going forward with this as well, or would we need to authorize something else?
Oh, no, yeah, that is not available for this purchase. That co-op has since expired, but we were part of it, and we did utilize it while it was in effect.
And CEO Johnson.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director Guzman, for the question, Mr. Preußer for your response. I just wanted to add some more context because just earlier today, I convened a meeting with the Transit CEO Coordinating Council, of which I'm chair with the American Public Transportation Association, and we just had this conversation relative to the available original equipment manufacturers within the fixed route space. And to that point, there was a in-depth bus manufacturing task force that was convened this year, where we looked at optimization to the point of what Director Guzman broached. Further to the point, there are certain co-ops, that's what we were referring to. There's a couple in Washington State, there's one in the state of California, there's other consortiums that are done through state departments of transportation. When they are available, it is our intent to take advantage of that, because with what we call the procurement book within APTA being the white book, there are certain specifications that we have committed to leveraging so we can maximize the price as we go forward to ensure that we are being good fiduciaries as opposed to doing one-offs. So I wanted to add additional context to that because I too heard the public commenter, and I think there needs to be some grounding in what is available, because recognizing in the report that we provided, this is the only responsive OEM that is available. We're talking about articulated buses versus over-the-road coaches, and there's different specifications needed. And I think it's incredibly important that we have to realize that we have to adhere to federal specifications of Buy and Build America and other aspects of that, meaning where they can be assembled. And right now, we're only talking about California, the state of Minnesota, and Alabama. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, CEO. Director Nicholson.
Thank you very much. Does this vote, have you already decided, like in this agreement, on all of the accessibility options that'll go into the buses, all the styling options that'll go in, where the bus, how much of this includes choices like whether these buses will have, interior, exterior bike racks, the Smart Rider accessibility or the Smart Rider Plus accessibility features? Yes, I'm looking at their website for their stylings and their, and do you have that? Can we look at that between now and the meeting to see what type of buses we're purchasing?
The short answer is yes,
Mr.
this
Purser.
price includes options that were exercised, some of which you mentioned, the interior bike racks, the infotainment system as an example.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I-
Ms. Director Nicholson.
yeah, can you send that around to directors so we can see what's in the package? Is there a contract that we can look at?
Mr. Presser.
Yeah, I'll have to defer on that. I don't know that it's ready to circulate at this moment, but I'm sure when the timing is appropriate and that information can be shared, there shouldn't be a problem sharing it.
Okay, CEO Johnson.
Mr. Preußer answered the question. I was going to say, when we put out a solicitation, there are specifications where we basically put forward what type of ancillary systems and things of the like that we would like, and we name the suppliers, or we say of likeness going forward. But Mr. Preußer hit the nail on the head in reference to us being in a place where that could be shared if that's the interest of the board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
One last.
Director Nicholson, did you have one quick follow-up question, or
Yes.
do you? Okay.
So just, yeah, very quickly, is there something that can be shared with the board before we vote to approve this at the board meeting in terms of what, maybe not the full contract, but what the options are that have been voted on? What goes into the $60 million or whatever it is?
Yeah, there's a breakdown per bus that includes, not only options, but tariffs and whatnot. So that I'm sure there's not an issue sharing what that summary looks like.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Vice Chair Curie.
Thank you. I have two questions. Number one, someday if we have a federal administration that does not demand a made in America, and if a hybrid bus or an electric bus might be something that we could procure, is the BRT project, is that set up that it could accommodate something like that somewhere in the future? And then my second question is, if we approve this, well, I guess if the board approves this, Ms. Mackey, would this money then flow through into the AMP plan that you're going to be presenting later tonight? And if so, could you just explain to me when you get there, just as a simple example, how the AMP plan would reflect that in the lines that talk about the 60-foot bus purchases for the BRT area, as well as the money flowing in and out of the Southwest Corridor Curves project? I believe that's also in that AMP, just to give me an example. Thanks.
Thank you. CEO Johnson, if you would like to respond.
Yes, I'll respond to the first part and yield the floor to CFO Mackey. So a couple of things, Director Curie, there are manufacturers of battery electric buses within the United States, but getting to your point of buy and build America, there's a couple of things we have to keep in mind. We have to think about the duty cycle of a vehicle, meaning how many hours it's actually out on the road, and we'd have to charge vehicles. So recognizing that we don't have our auspices over our right-of-way, you would need to have charging stations that were readily available as well. So to your question, there would have to be reconstruction done to accommodate, recognizing this system is designed right now for, originally we thought hybrid buses where we could take those in to be fueled at a fueling station at the division. But going forward, if in fact there were different aspects of provisions within the federal government, I just want to ensure that everybody understands the Buy and Build America did come forward in a Democratic administration. And so that's important to note. So I'm not trying to get into partisan politics. I don't really believe that's a factor as we go forward. What made it challenging was in respect to the decrease in original equipment manufacturers, it's just by virtue of the United States not being a large customer for fixed route buses, unlike Europe and Asia going forward. And not to mention that oftentimes transit agencies do their own independent specifications, hence my comments before talking about working with APTA. So we have more streamlined procurements whereby we can use co-ops to better yield a price that's more reflective of public sector procurement. Thank you. I'll yield the floor to CFO Mackey. I hope that answered the first part of your question.
Yes, Ms. Mackey, if you want to respond.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Chair Banker. So the 2026 budget included the Southwest Corridor curves as well as the bus procurements. And so you will not see, for example, in the asset management plan that we present later on in this meeting, the 60-foot buses because they've already been incorporated into the budget.
Hey, thank you. Any other comment? Director Arcuri, did you have a follow-up question? You're muted.
I do. Just a quick follow-up question, please, Ms. Mackey. I don't believe the tariffs were included in the budget, however.
Yeah, sure.
CFO Mackey.
Yeah, so the full amount of this bus procurement was not included in the budget because the cost is increased, not only for tariffs, but also for the cost of these buses. And so that's why we're doing a budget transfer from the Southwest Corridor curves. So the amount of the 2026 budget for these buses was smaller than what's being requested. And so we're doing a budget transfer to cover the difference.
Okay, thank you. Director Arcuri, do you have any other follow-up questions? No. Okay, Director Guzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the agreement for RTD in this is that we will provide a fleet. I'm just curious if somebody would mind enlightening all of us for the record about why we have to procure special buses for this and we can't go forward with what we currently have. Obviously, there's some information in the board packet that we have a section of this fleet that will be at age and need to be replaced. So the procurement is timely, but also BRT is new to Denver. And so there's some other specifications we have to deal with on here. I think it would be good to get that on the record so that there's a grounded understanding for all directors about this. And just one more detail, while it would be lovely to have a completely electrified fleet or other propulsion systems that might be greener, let's say, we do have a heavy filtration system on the back of our buses that releases a small amount of exhaust, and a bus can still fit 60 individuals comfortably, and that would be 60 cars off the road. That's a 40-foot bus, and we're talking about 60-foot articulated buses here, so that's even more folks that can go on public transportation instead of driving down the Colfax artery, freeing up the road for emergency vehicles and deliveries. So thank you. But if anybody would like to attack the first part of that question, I'd really appreciate it so that we have some grounded understanding for the public.
CEO Johnson.
Yes, thank you very kindly, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director Guzman, for your comments and seeking clarification for the record. I think what is important to note, as you indicated, this is the first bus rapid transit system as defined by the Federal Transit Administration in the state of Colorado. One thing is unique as we talk about our operating environment is that we will have center boarding platforms, i.e. everybody, I'm certain, has traversed Colfax Avenue upon which this bus rapid transit line will be operating. And quite naturally, we have to ensure that we have vehicles that can service a center running platform, recognizing that typically with our current fleet of vehicles that we do not have that configuration. So it's important by virtue of the specifications that were outlined that we have that flexibility to accommodate. Moreover, to the point, traditionally, as we have done before, and Secretary Nicholson raised this in his comments as related to bike racks, when we think about the throughput of bus rapid transit as defined by FTA, a little different from fixed route bus service. This is more or less analogous to a streetcar and or a light rail system running street level. And in doing so, the buses will be taken on board the vehicle for expediency. And additionally, what's important to note too with BRT that there's off payment systems, meaning that one is not queuing up to put money in a fare box as well. So all of those are different factors that really constitute what BRT truly is as defined. I know we have used that term somewhat here within this region, but truly what we have currently with the Flatiron Flyer, it would be over the road Coach Express service. And so that's distinguishable factors. Mr. Preußer, if you'd like to add anything to clarify my comments or further expound, I yield the floor to you.
Mr. Preußer?
Yeah, no, thank you, CEO Johnson. The only thing that I would add is, traditionally, folks are going to be boarding at the front of the bus with this service. It's all door boarding, so there's actually 3 doors. There's a middle ramp, and as was mentioned, there'll be bike rack as well, and there's infotainment system. So those are just at a high level, just some of the differences that you would experience as a customer traveling on that corridor on these buses.
Okay, thank you. Director Nicholson, do you have a question?
I do. Mr. Preußer, how much of the what am I trying to say? Obviously, when it comes to something like the livery and then the out exterior design, we can wrap the buses to look whatever way we want, basically. How much of the interior appearance of the buses is dictated by this contract, and how much of it will staff have the ability to customize going forward? And the reason I ask that question is essentially, I think that, I mean, I hate to put it this way, but making these buses look incredibly good, incredibly cool, is extremely important to making them attractive to customers. This is my district. This is my community. And I mean, we have a number of buses which are very utilitarian, but they don't have color. They don't have, the walls aren't, they're very silver. You go to New York and the poles are yellow, and you know what I mean? So my question is basically, to what degree have we locked ourselves into what type of appearance, if that makes sense, with this purchase?
Mr. Preußer?
Yeah, a lot of what we're going to receive was included in our RFP and specifications, and they're being responsive to that. There are elements of the bus where we do have options. Of course, the options lead to more expense, and there's everybody wants to make sure that there's good balance there, that we're getting the best possible bus that we can, so that there's good customer experience as well. And I think when we share the summary of options that have been exercised based on what's available, we'll give you and the other board members just an idea of, what was available and what was exercised. There are some limitations, of course, but there were some options, and we did exercise some options. I would highlight the infotainment system as an example of that. I think that's going to be a really significant feature for customers who are traveling, on those buses on that corridor, just to be able to know, where they're at, and all of the additional capabilities that come with that type of technology to interact and message with customers.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions, folks? Okay, I have a couple of things to add. First of all, Director Arcuri, I think you hit upon a really important point, and that is, at what point do we move from diesel buses to clean energy? Because if I understand this correctly, it's going to take 2 years for the buses to be delivered, and then their span of life is roughly 14 years. So these buses are going to be around for 16 years from now. So I think that's an important consideration. The other point is that we need to at least mention, I'd be negligent if I was not, it's going to be costing us $67 million to purchase 47 buses. This is one of the largest expenses that we're going to be making this year. We're talking about paint colors instead of where the money's coming from. We all know that we're facing a huge deficit, and we all have to roll up our sleeves to make sure that we get rid of that deficit and move forward. And not only that, I should also add we're taking money from one project to supplement this project. I just have to raise these issues because, as you all know, when we appropriated 5.6 million for Northwest Rail in our last meeting, folks were very concerned about taking money out of the FISA account. And here, in this particular instance, we're taking money out of the carry forward, and we're also taking money out of a project now that's going to be delayed. So, nevertheless, I will support this. But I thought it was very important to mention that $67 million for diesel buses for a brand new BRT that it's got some unique features, there's no doubt. It's an expensive price tag. So with that 2 cents, oh, excuse me, Mr. Guzman, what would you like to add?
Director, not doctor, but Director Guzman. So with levity, right? I understand what you're saying. If we want to take this out of the FISA account, let's do it. If that's what you're offering. Also, we have a lot of work to do, and this is our most important bus route through the metro area. This gets more service than I think any other route in the system, and more ridership than any other route in the system. It's like comparing the A line to anything else on the rail side. And so I think that the investment is worth it. I do hear you on the cost and the length of time we will have these buses. But I would also remind everybody, the public and all directors, that we have an infrastructure question we need to answer as our chicken before we lay the egg, which is to deal with the propulsion systems of any bus, whether we use hydrogen or we use electricity. We still have to solve for the fact that we don't have appropriate infrastructure to be able to begin transitioning for these buses and vehicles that we're using. And so I think it makes sense at this point, given the timing and thank goodness it's not just Director Nicholson's district. He's got the south side of Colfax, but I got the north side of Colfax, and it extends into Aurora, which is well outside both of our districts. So this is a shared project amongst directors that we have a vested interest in ensuring, since the cities have both kept their word and are ahead of schedule on this construction work, that we have the ability to provide the service we committed to providing in partnership with them. So that's all,
Okay,
happy to
thank
do
you.
it. But you called on my buses at the board meeting, so I'm gonna call on that FISA back
Well,
for you.
I have to do this. This is my obligation, Director Guzman. Because one more thing I just wanted to point out, this project that Denver's been working on, I don't know, maybe 4 years. I just want to point out Northwest Rail Line is 21 years. But I am
Well,
there to
Denver also put
support.
money forward for this, and so
Well,
that's a
yeah,
big
and
part of it.
so is Longmont. But with that, I support this project, and I support the entire, projects that are going to benefit all of our customers, not just District I or District A or whatever district it is. I just had to point out the cost of this project. So thank you very much. So are we ready to vote? Let me see here. Let's start. Are there any no votes on this action? Okay, hearing none, I will say this measure has passed and will go forward to the executive committee. So thank you all. Next item, discussion items. So we are going to have 2 discussion items on today's agenda. The first is for the financial performance update. So I would like to ask CFO Kelly Mackey to present this item to the committee. Ms. Mackey.
Thank you, Committee Chair Banker. One moment. Can you all see that?
Not yet.
Okay, it's up.
Great. All right, Kelly Mackey, Chief Financial Officer. Tonight, I will walk through RTD's financial performance through February 28, 2026. These results are unaudited, and this briefing is aligned with RTD's fiscal policy requirements and commitments to transparency and accountability as we review trends early in the fiscal year. Here is the outline for this discussion. I'll start with background and purpose, including why this update is provided regularly, Next, we will review the latest financial results and position, including major variances. And finally, I'll summarize the overall financial performance and key considerations as we move deeper into 2026. So let's begin with the context that frames the results. RTD's fiscal policy requires that a monthly financial status report be submitted to the board, and we meet that requirement through the materials included in the board briefing documents. We encourage you to read the financial statements and supporting analysis every month. I also present a regular financial update to this committee, which allows us to focus on meaningful trends and developing risks and opportunities. Some of the other financial documents available on RTD's website include the annual comprehensive financial report, the fiscal policy, and the transit asset management plan. Now let's look at the agency's financial results and position through February, beginning with revenue and expense. RTD reported a net position decrease or loss of $65 million for January and February. The primary driver continues to be elevated operating expenses, creating a structural deficit. The revenue of $151 million was $42 million or 22% below budget and $5 million or 3% below prior year. Starting at the top of the table, fare revenue of $9 million was 5% favorable to budget and 6% ahead of prior year. Sales and use tax revenue of $127 million is a modest 1% favorable to both budget and prior year. Grant revenue does not arrive in a smooth monthly pattern and is based on reimbursement cycles and timing of when expenses are incurred and submitted for reimbursement, so we should see this normalize later in the year. Investment income is budgeted conservatively, and the $6 million in investment income is 20% behind prior year, due to cash and investment balances continuing to decline caused by the structural deficit, as well as lower investment returns in the market. Remember that in 2025, investment income was $61 million, so just as large as fare revenue. And this one significant revenue source is something to keep in mind that we expect to continue declining given the deficit. The next line is primarily advertising revenue, which decreased $1.8 million or 65% from prior year, given the planned early termination of the Lamar advertising contract. In the expense side, total expenses were $216 million, which was favorable to budget by $43 million or 17% and favorable to prior year by $18 million or 8%. The largest driver is operating expense, due in part to active spend management and timing. Even with these favorable variances, the expense base remains elevated relative to recurring revenue, which is why we describe this as a structural deficit environment. Depreciation expense is declining as RTD's capital assets continue to age, and interest expense is continuing to improve given staff's effective management of debt obligations. Overall, while the year-to-date loss of $65 million is 1% better than budget and improved from prior year, this view reinforces the underlying large gap between recurring revenue and recurring operating costs. Staff continues to focus on long-term sustainability through disciplined operations, expense management, and effective transit asset management plan, and preserving compliance with the agency's financial policies. Turning now to the balance sheet and net position, this provides a high-level view of RTD's financial position as of February 2026 compared to the prior year. The agency's net position is $3 billion, which is a decline of about $205 million or 6% from prior year. The primary drivers of that decline are continued operating losses and ongoing depreciation of capital assets without equal reinvestment into the existing system. It's important to remember that depreciation is a non-cash expense that reflects consumption of RTD's long-lived infrastructure and fleet assets over time. When combined with the recurring operating losses, it contributes to the continued downward pressure on overall net position, which is what RTD owns. Total assets declined $453 million, or 7% year over year. Cash and cash equivalents of $946 million declined by $154 million, or 14% from prior year. That decline reflects ongoing operating cash usage, capital spending, debt service obligations, and the timing of grant reimbursements. Net capital assets declined by approximately $280 million, primarily due to depreciation outpacing capital expenditures. This trend reinforces the importance of maintaining sustainable long-term capital funding strategies to preserve system condition and asset reliability over time. Within net position, the operating reserve balance declined approximately $74 million year over year, and the capital replacement fund declined $95 million. The unrestricted fund balance increased from a negative $50 million to positive $105 million due to internal classifications and timing shifts between reserve categories rather than a fundamental improvement in financial condition. Overall, this slide highlights that while RTD continues to maintain substantial assets and liquidity, the organization is experiencing erosion in financial position over time, which is why staff remains focused on balancing near-term operational needs with long-term financial sustainability, preserving liquidity, maintaining adequate reserves, and aligning operating and capital decisions with the agency's financial policies. The slide you've seen before, which describes the fund balances. Restricted funds are tied to statutory or contractual requirements. Board designated reserves, including the operating reserve, which the board sets at 3 months of operating expenses, and the capital replacement reserve to align with the TAM plan. The Fast Tracks internal savings account is designated by the board to support Fast Tracks elements, and the unrestricted reserve represents the remaining undesignated portion of net position. It's important to note that reserves represent financial position, whereas cash represents liquidity. These are related but not interchangeable concepts. And turning to historical trends, this slide is intended to provide broader context around RTD's long-term financial trajectory and the structural dynamics discussed in this presentation. Starting on the left, you can see the trend in unrestricted cash and investments declining, along with base system and Fast Tracks fund balances declining since 2023 after the federal pandemic era relief was provided. 2025 declined by about $150 million in unrestricted cash and investments. Absent sufficient and timely corrective action, the deficit will continue to place downward pressure on liquidity over time. While RTD continues to maintain significant cash balances today, those balances are not infinite, and the trend line is important to monitor. Remember that cash and fund balances are not additive. They overlap in certain ways and represent different accounting and policy perspectives, so they should not be interpreted as separate pools available for spending. On the right-hand side, we show RTD's large financial obligations, including debt and pension liabilities. Overall obligations have declined from $4.1 billion in 2020 to $3.3 billion as of February 2026. The majority of that balance relates to long-term debt associated primarily with Fast Tracks infrastructure. This trend reflects a steady repayment of debt obligations over time. Pension liabilities also improved compared to earlier years, and they remain an ongoing obligation that requires monitoring. To conclude the financial performance update, I will summarize the key themes reflected in this presentation. So first, revenue is down 3% compared to prior year to date through February, while expense improved 8%, but spending continues to exceed revenue. As a result, RTD reported a loss of $65 million for January and February 2026. The underlying issues continue to be the structural deficit, meaning the agency's recurring operating expense base remains too high relative to recurring revenues. While timing variances and one-time factors can create short-term fluctuations in reported results, such as for grant revenue and operating expense, they do not change the long-term structural challenge. The broader trend in RTD's financial position remains important. Net position, or what RTD owns after liabilities, declined $205 million from prior year. That decline was driven by operating losses combined with ongoing capital depreciation. RTD remains financially stable today with substantial assets, liquidity, and continued access to capital markets. However, the agency continues to operate in a structural deficit environment that, if unaddressed properly over time, will continue to erode liquidity reserves and overall financial flexibility. And thank you, Chair Banker. I'm happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. That was very thorough. Director Larson, you have a question.
So our operating reserve, I think it was about 217 million all in. It's for 3 months of operating expenses. Would we be able to reduce that to 2 months of operating expenses to get a 1 month sort of available amount of money to cover certain operating expenses as we go into this need to cut service? That would be around, I guess, $70 million. And what would be the implications of that?
CFO Mackey?
Yeah, so that is included in the board's fiscal policy, and the board is able to change that from 3 to 2 months. And I believe the purpose of the operating reserve is in case there's economic downturn, so that RTD would have sufficient funds available to continue operations and service, but it's definitely within the board's purview to make that change.
Thank you. Director Larson?
Can I just do it? Is 3 months sort of a typical amount for an operating reserve for an agency like ours, or is it more conservative than many?
CFO Mackey?
Yes, I'm happy to do a bit of research, but based on what I know, I think 3 months is adequate and pretty typical, but I'm happy to follow up to see if there's any other insights I can share on that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. CEO Johnson?
Yes, thank you very kindly. I would just add in the transit space, it is common relative to 3 months from my experience. But that doesn't negate Ms. Mackey's willingness to do some research, but I just wanted to impart that relative to the public transportation sector. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, the one thing that excuse me, Director Guzman, question.
Thank you. Actually, more of a comment along that same line, and I hear you, Director Larson, but I would actually advise against changing that from 3 months to 2 months. I think 3 months is comfortable, and it gives us enough assurance to help our employees understand that we are going to make right by them should there be a more drastic economic downturn or a situation like COVID were to come up again. I mean, hantavirus has entered the country. We are now in the chat. So, like we don't know what's coming. And I think that's why the board has set that. It might seem like a liberal amount of months to keep on hand, but I think it's actually a pretty appropriate. Going to 2 months would be unwise. And I think I would definitely vote against it if it came up. So just a thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, one comment that I have, CFO Mackey, I think you glossed over the really good news. And the good news is I'm looking at operating expenses that we budgeted for this year, and I'm looking at actual, and there is a difference. We saved $43 million. So that's good.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk a little bit about how that happened?
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to. So Mr. Todd Nichols also on the call, and he's our senior manager who's going to help with the next item. So if he would like to jump in here, he is more than welcome to, but his team spreads the operating expense budget as best they can throughout the year. It's not always perfectly aligned with expenses when expenses fall. So there could be some timing impact related to actual versus
like payroll
budget.
or something. Yeah.
Perhaps not payroll, because that would be accrued. It could be other items that fall into those buckets. So we'll continue monitoring it over the course of the year. I know for the 2026 budget, the finance team, along with the other departments, did tighten up those historical variances quite a bit between what was typically the difference between actual spend and budget. There was often a bit of cushion in there. And so they pulled back a lot on that cushion going into 2026. But we'll keep watching it. But thank you for calling that.
Okay. No, good work. Thank you. Okay, so there's no other questions or comments. So let's go on to then our second item, which is our 2027 budget development update. So once again, I'd like to ask our CFO Mackey, as well as Mr. Nickel, Senior Manager of Budget, and Dennis Yeklich, Manager of Data Sciences and Analytics, to present this item to the committee. So if you'd like to start the presentation.
Yes, thank you kindly. And Mr. Kroll, you're welcome to share it on the screen if you would like to. Kelly Mackey, Chief Financial Officer again, and joining me today, as Chair Banker said, is Mr. Todd Nichols, Senior Manager of Budget, and Mr. Dennis Yaklich, Manager of Data Sciences and Analytics. And we are here to provide an update on the development of the 2027 budget and to preview major components that will come before the committee later this year. As the committee knows, RTD operates on a January through December fiscal year, and each annual budget is prepared and adopted to support operating needs, capital requirements, and strategic initiatives. The 2027 budget process follows our structured planning cycle, bringing together revenue forecasts, TAM-driven capital requirements, labor trends, economic factors, legislative considerations, and the upcoming 5-year financial forecast. We're emphasizing long-term financial sustainability and continued alignment with the board fiscal policy, including priority on stated good repair investments. The TAM plan and the Asset Management Plan, or AMP, remain central to that approach. One important reminder is the distinction between the TAM plan and the AMP. The Transit Asset Management Plan is a document that describes how the agency complies with Federal Transit Administration TAM programs. There are 9 elements of this program we must demonstrate compliance with as a Tier 1 agency and FTA grant recipient. And among the requirements is the presentation of the agency's prioritized list of capital investments, what we call the Asset Management Plan, or AMP for short. The AMP is both a product and a process. The prioritized AMP is an input into the budgeting process, and the validated AMP is where subject matter experts can have nuanced inputs into the business cases that are prioritized by the working group. The initial AMP uses rules such as useful life benchmarks to provide inputs into long-range planning. The federal requirement is to produce a single prioritized list of capital investments developed through a process described in the TAM plan. Again, the prioritized AMP is the prioritized, financially unconstrained list of capital needs that emerges from the process described in the TAM plan. And per the FTA, the accountable executive for meeting the TAM program requirements is our GM CEO. The board has policy level responsibility, and line item changes outside of the described methodology would be inconsistent with the TAM program's intent. And the agency, RTD, may risk non-compliance to circumvent the methodology described in the TAM plan, which is subject to audit by the FTA and which has recently been audited by the Colorado Office of the State Auditor. The agency has now completed data gathering and prioritization work for capital and related operating needs, and staff will soon be reviewing departmental requests and updating assumptions around inflation, labor costs, grants, revenue trends, and debt service. This work is being coordinated across the agency to ensure alignment with both long-range plans and the agency optimization and sustainability plan. The asset management plan is currently includes $1.8 billion in capital requirements over the 2027 through 2031 horizon, plus an additional $0.7 billion in known unknowns, items the agency is tracking, but have not yet integrated into the asset management plan due to reviews. In 2028 in particular, we see significant increases in requirements driven mainly by $328 million in system-wide light rail safety enhancement programs and the shift of certain bus procurements from 2027 to 2028. This shift reflects our careful evaluation of fleet useful life versus replacement cost escalation. The initial asset management plan provides RTD's 10-year view, which is updated annually and methodology driven. While it's unconstrained, it gives a realistic sense of future needs by mode, including bus, light rail vehicles, infrastructure, and facilities. The prioritized AMP represents what the agency believes is the most critical and time-sensitive work for the next 5 years. It incorporates renewal and replacement priorities, and as required by the FTA, also includes expansionary items, though renewals and safety critical replacements are prioritized. Several major categories are represented: fleet replacements, facility systems, technology and cybersecurity renewals, rail infrastructure, and key state of good repair projects. The list has been vetted by the Asset Management Working Group and reviewed by the Asset Management Accountability Leadership Team. As we move toward presenting the 5-year financial forecast in July and the proposed budget in October, I want to highlight 2 important considerations. First is the federal compliance. RTD maintains the integrity of the transit asset management-based prioritization process. Modifying individual line items outside that framework could actually expose RTD to audit or compliance risk. And the second is financial sustainability. The pace of capital expenditures must be aligned with the long-range revenue outlook, debt profile, liquidity expectations, and the structural deficit challenges shared earlier in the meeting due to elevated operating expenses. So tonight's objective is to set the stage for budget actions that will come before you later this year. The asset management plan is ready for your policy level review, and we will bring the 5-year financial forecast in July, followed by the proposed operating budget in October. And Mr. Nickel, Mr. Yaklich, and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions by our committee? Comments? Let's see, Director Guzman, you were first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff, thank you. This is wonderful to read through, and I appreciate I know this is not everything, but this is quite comprehensive, and it's probably the best work I've seen with respect to what we have upcoming in the time that I've served on the board. So I really do appreciate it. I don't have to dig through several documents to find this. It's all here. So that gives a lot of food for thought. I do appreciate the way that it's broken out over the years, and the lower list. The only thing that is missing, and I have to imagine, is like what are these things? Some of the items that are there specifically, but the short descriptions under some of the ones that might be a little tricky to understand for the public and non-transit professionals and non-operators is really well appreciated. So thank you for that work. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Director Arcuri.
Thank you. I have 2 questions, which should be pretty quick to answer. Number 1 is, what are the totals totaling on page 33? And then if we look at page 48, what exactly are those units? They're not dollars, so I don't know what those numbers represent. Thanks.
Okay, CFO Mackey.
Yes, so the totals on packet page 33 are the same as the totals on packet page 32 under April 2026. So those are the totals of the 5-year prioritized AMP. And the detailed table that starts on page 33 shows the line item details that total up to those amounts. In terms of the table right below it, that's numerical but not dollars. Those are the prioritizations completed by the subject matter expert working groups. And so this prioritized AMP is numerically prioritized by item and by year.
Okay, excellent. Good question. Director Arcuri, follow-up? You're muted. Director Arcuri, yeah, there you go.
You hear me now?
You're not muted now. Go for it.
Oh, okay. To me, it looks just the opposite. Let's go back to page 33, please. So if I look at the year 2030, okay, the total says 342 million, yet for the Civil Rights Division, there is some software that's 362,000, I'm sorry. So you see what this is why I ask. What?
Good point.
Yeah. May I, Chair? Ms. Chair?
Oh, yes, CFO Mackey, go for it.
Thank you. So the table on page 32 is in millions of dollars. And so that first row with the gray totals, that's in millions, but the line item details are in thousands. It's not super clear on this table. Next time we make that improvement, but the total row is in millions. The individual items like the civil rights software, that's in thousands.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Good point, because I missed that. Director Gutscherenner.
Thank you. And yeah, I'll just echo, thank you so much for the presentation, for this information, very helpful. I'm curious. I imagine we've been doing this a long time, the 5-year AMP, the 10-year AMP, and I'm curious, looking back, how how accurate, how far off the mark have we been, and what have we learned from that exercise?
The CFO Mackey?
Yes, maybe actually, Mr. Yaklich, if you would like to take that one, I certainly can, but I'll give you an opportunity to speak since you have joined us here and you have more background and history on this than I do, and they might appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you, CFO Mackey, and Director as well.
Yes, Mr. Yaklich, welcome.
Sorry, thank you. So we have been doing the TAM planning since it's been required by the FTA, which we were first required to produce a TAM plan and subsequently the AMP in 2018. We have had other models before that, but really RTD responded to the legislation that created the TAM program for FTA. So it hasn't been that many years, but I've been involved with it that long. So what things that we have learned, we have our first off, I'd like to say that our program has been evaluated favorably quite recently by the FTA. They funded and sponsored a research project to evaluate the state of the practice of transit asset management throughout the country, and we were one of the agencies identified to participate in that. And we were evaluated favorably, so we are where the industry is, kind of on that leading edge. We have learned many things over time, and one of them, we've made improvements to how we do the planning, what the sort of business cases look like, how we've approached that process over time. And a development that occurred recently was our Asset Management Accountability Leadership Team, or AMALT, has put forth an asset information policy, which we'll leverage to further improve our information throughout the agency and provide more transparent business cases that are easier to consume, that require less subject matter expert knowledge, and we want to align those business cases to the strategies that are set by the agency and the policies from the board. So we have learned a lot of about how we can make this more transparent, more repeatable, and we're making improvements all the time. If you want to look at some of our most recent improvements, those are highlighted in our TAM plans. So we really did a lot of work, and I know Ms. Johnson has her hand up. I should probably quit talking, but we made significant improvements recently in how we identify our light rail infrastructure, and we're able to bring that much more clearly into focus, not looking at only past expenditures, but future needs. So we've really improved our ability to estimate when we will need renewals on those assets, and then also what they will cost. So that I should yield to Ms. Johnson.
Mr. Yaklich, thank you very much. CEO Johnson.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Yaklich, for your work in, detailing what's been done. One element I'd just like to supplement: a few years back, we did retain the services of a third-party consultancy to come in and look at how we were addressing that information relative to AIM being asset information maturity. By virtue of leveraging that, we have been on this continuous improvement loop that I just wanted to acknowledge, because staff has put forward efforts. When you think about the transit industry as a whole, I believe a couple of meetings ago, we did showcase at a study session, a video that FTA had done where the infrastructure within the country is way beyond where it is, like at a level D. And so with that as context, I just wanted to share that the asset management leadership team basically putting that into focus. So we had a process and a policy has been something that we can all look to help guide us as we move this forward. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to commend staff because this is something that has been, I'd say, evergreen as we go forward. And I just wanted to supplement that we did have a third party look at it as well and leverage those lessons learned going forward. So thank you so much, Director Gucci-Ritter, for the question, and thanks to staff for leaning into this. It is something across our industry that we continually need to leverage for the betterment of delivering transit services here in this country. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, folks? Okay, I've got Director Arcuri, go first, then I'll ask mine. You're muted.
Okay. Hello. So we have learned recently that 2028 is a very critical year for us. And I noticed, I think it's on page 32 and 33, look at the jump in the millions of dollars in 2028. That's tremendous.
Yes.
Is that something that we can scale back, or does that not work because of the federal requirements and safety issues with our transit action management plan? Do you see how we go? Yeah. So here we have 100s and 200s of millions of dollars a year, and then 2028, it's a huge increase.
Yes, not only that, but take a look at last year, April 25. So it used to be 110, now it's 970. Good point. CFO Mackey, did you want to address that?
Yes, so the teams are building out better views in terms of exact timing. So a lot of times, you know, when some of these items are listed, it might be the beginning of a multi-year project. And in some cases, the project might be listed with dollars in multiple years. In some cases, it may be more upfront than the actual timing. So we'll review those items in more detail. And, you know, it could be possible that not all of these items will be able to be funded, which is partly why we have the prioritizations there. But also, I believe that Mr. Yaklich has some commentary to add, if it's all right, Ms. Chair. Madam
Yes,
Chair.
absolutely, Mr. Yaklich.
Oh, thank you, Chair, and CFO Mackey. Yes, so we evaluate these business proposals on an annual basis, and we do our best to provide this five-year planning window. As Ms. Mackey mentioned earlier, one of the major jumps was in that $328 million light rail safety enhancement program, which was not something that had been anticipated. It's what our group commonly refers to as an expansion request. So it's not based on existing infrastructure. The business case for that will be reevaluated in the next round of prioritization. And we can, with some of the improvements that we're anticipating with the asset information policy, we believe that we will better be able to quantify the risk mitigated with that investment and see how well it stacks up against other potential investments. So that was one of the major jumps. And then, as Ms. Mackey mentioned, the timing of some bus procurements shifted from one year to another, affecting that number. And we believe that that can be done in a way that will not negatively impact performance, as well as allow us to get a little better value out of our existing equipment. And I could describe further, but it looks like we have hands up.
Okay, Director Arcuri, is that sufficient? Or another question?
Yes. Good.
Okay, Director Nicholson.
Well, hello there.
Hello there.
If the board decided tomorrow that we only had, I don't know, $400 million for asset management in 2028, I guess my question is, having had a few conversations with folks at the state level and you know, who manage other large capital budgets, like, how much of that stuff over the next couple of years is like, we will have to stop running service tomorrow? How much of that stuff is, yeah, we should probably do this, but, you know, the world's not going to end if we don't? And how much of that stuff is, this is part of the sort of standard check the boxes things, but, you know, no one's going to scream at us if we were to not do it? And I don't think I have a really good appreciation of, you know, if we didn't have huge amounts of savings right now, if we only had $300 million and we just couldn't do nearly as much of that stuff, how bad would it be, and how quickly?
Hey, Mr. Yakovich.
Thank you. And thanks, Director, for the question. We want to be able to provide that information. So how bad would things get? Some of the investments are mitigating potential passenger delay minutes. So like if we don't renew certain portions of rail, we can reasonably expect that we would have slow zones again. Their condition is such that they've reached the end of their expected useful life. Repairs have not shown to be effective at improving their condition to a point where we can reasonably think that we would avoid those service delay minutes. So again, by leveraging that asset information policy, we will be in a better position to quantify things like the relative amount of service delay minutes that could be mitigated through investments in things like track versus buses and that sort of thing. So we want to bring that into, we want to make those sorts of decisions more transparent by leveraging data to make those business cases more clear and less reliant on subject matter expertise from the folks that have worked here, you know, often quite some time, or in transit quite some time, where they have sort of an innate understanding of these things. So we do want to be able to talk about the alternatives of what happens if we don't make particular investments. So that is that close to the answer for your question, or?
I also see Deputy CEO Pena. Did you want to add something to this conversation?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so I do want to say one of the things, I've been here for 1 year and 2 months. One of the things that I'm really impressed to see is the fact that we as an agency have identified what it needs to be replaced, what it needs to be, what are the assets that are getting to that end of the life cycle. And I think what you will see as an evolution now that we have identified what we got to do and the much work that we got to do, because we're turning into a legacy system. So we got to make sure that we are investing before we start having unplanned service disruptions that will have issues with the reliability of our service that everybody is expecting from us. Is that we're looking into now how we can do the balancing act between service delivery, because the region is expecting to us to serve them, but at the same time doing this maintenance work. And the way that we're now working collectively with operations, engineering, infrastructure delivery, asset management, is to start looking how much work we can do to minimize that impact by really looking at geographic locations. And then if we gotta go in certain areas, how much we can actually consolidate the work. So we're minimizing that impact, Director Nicholson. So to your point, I think it's not as a matter of what we cannot do. The work gotta get done is how we can compress or group the work together so we can minimize the impact to our customers as we bring the system to a set of repair.
Okay, thank you. Director Nicholson, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm an analogy type of guy, and it feels like part of what the conversation we're having right now is we're somebody with a 20-year-old car, and, you know, the brakes are starting to fail, and the engine is maybe not always great, and the paint is rusting, and we're debating about how much money we can spend on gas versus how much we can spend on keeping the vehicle running. And I think that you know, it's both helpful for the board to understand, to really get a sense of what those trade-offs are, again, between the, you know, useful to have and the, you know, keeping your brakes working. And the, you know, and then, you know, the sort of other side of that, which is, you know, if we're going to be trying to convince the public to make investments in these things, I think the better we can do talking about where all that money is going and what these investments are and why we are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on all of these different types of repairs, I think really does help convey the scale of the legacy-ness of the system. And so I really do, you know, I want to understand this better than I do, in part because I think we need to help the public understand this better than they do. So.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not quite sure it's that dire. I mean, we will work our way through this. CEO Johnson, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll be really quick and succinct. And so considering Secretary Nicholson likes analogies, consider we're living in a 30-year-old house with an unsettled foundation and a plumbing problem and a dilapidated roof, and all your neighbors want you to put in a pickleball court and a swimming pool. Our core business is to deliver service. And when I first came to this organization, decisions were made relative to not ensuring that we were doing state of good repair activities. Hence, that's why we have the Downtown Rail Reconstruction Project. We were more or less doing more specific focused areas to keep us humming along. I know some of you have been very forthright with me. I'm looking at Director Larson on the screen. I know why he decided to run for the RTD board, and he and I have had conversations. If we were doing our due diligence relative state of good repair and we weren't kicking the can, we would not be in this precarious position. So the team will work in giving you more information, but we will be in the same place we are right now, where we're playing catch up doing these projects once we've gotten to year 31, as opposed to doing our due diligence when we're in year 20. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to share that.
Let's go to Director Guzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So interesting question, Director Nicholson. I want to bring this to everybody's attention. In the eyes of the Federal Transit Administration, the FTA, the Transit Asset Management Plan is a critical, mandatory tool designed to achieve and maintain a state of good repair for public transit assets. The FTA views the plan as a strategic framework to ensure safe, cost-effective, and reliable service by identifying asset conditions and prioritizing funding rather than a compliance document. The value of an FTA TAM plan is that we get safety and reliability assurances. We can fund with prioritization, making sure that agencies and the federal government stay informed of how to allocate limited funding so that we understand what our reasonably anticipated funds are and the highest priority capital needs, especially because in 2018, through the National Transit Database, where we report all of our transit information nationally, they identified a $101 billion deferred reinvestment backlog. That only happens if you have this. We have to keep compliance with federal mandates. We're not only mandated to have a TAM, we're also mandated to have annual performance targets with the TAM. That's under 49 USC Chapter 53. Data and risk management, and you push a lot of desire to ensure that we have tap to pay, which requires reasonable system resilience and strength to avoid data breaches. And that comes as part of the TAM and the risk management that we are often after on the audit committee. It all feeds into the national data reporting. And then it gives us some performance metrics, and it sets annual targets for the measures of rolling stock, condition of facilities, and performance restrictions. So if you go back and look at the list that was provided to us, and thank you again very much, staff, for that, it's both by dollar amount and by what our transit professionals are telling us are the most important things to replace by number, from 1 to about 500 or more on there. But think about it this way. We have a need to repair roofs over where our employees are currently actively working to make sure that our transit system is safe with the police department and our safety and security. We have folks that are doing welding that need proper ventilation to do their jobs so they don't get injured, their lungs are safe, and we keep them healthy. We need to make sure that all of our facilities, parking lots, where our customers come into contact with our trains at stations are all safe and in good repair. So it goes much more than just a couple of track alignments for the light rail. This is the entire system, the whole cobweb network of RTD, and it really gets down into the nitty-gritty. And it helps us to be able to plan. So I think a couple of things are important to point out with this. One, without this data, we can't go to the federal government and ask for any funding because they will simply laugh at us and say, no, you didn't do your homework, you're out of compliance, go back to Denver and fix it. Number two, with the data, we have the strongest position available to be able to go to the federal government and say, this is what we need. To your point about going to the voters with the same information, we have to do this. And in order to do this, by doing this, excuse me, we also keep all of our passengers and each other safe. Our employees are safe. Our customers are safe. People know that they're riding on buses, on rail lines. They are standing on platforms and waiting at park and rides that are not going to hurt or injure them because they are designed to be taken care of in our planning and our functioning as government. And it also allows us, to Director Arcuri's point, to Director Larson's point, to really look at the finances here and figure out what we believe is the most important work that needs to be done by cooperating with the recommendations from our staff. And so I think that you're on the right track, but understanding where these rules come from in the federal government and why this FTA TAM is important and how we assess it is really, really key to being able to continue as a strong leader on the board. And for those that might care to know about this, RTD worked with APTA on TAM work going back to 2018 and currently, so that we could have the best set of standards to be able to proceed forward with. So that the part about how RTD is seen in this, RTD in Denver is seen in this nationally, is really, really key to the fact that we are getting the best possible information and sometimes probably better than some of our peers, but definitely abreast of some of the larger, more well-funded agencies. We are holding our own and swinging well above our weight in this. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Director Guzman. CFO Mackey, a quick question, I think. In one of the bills that was passed by the legislature over the past 2-3 years, are we not required to put together a 10-year capital asset plan, which to me is very, very similar to what we have in our packet today? It seems to me it's very closely related. One's required by the state, it's more open, and then, of course, what FTA is requiring.
Yes, thank you, Committee Chair Banker, for that question. My understanding is that we meet those requirements of having a 10-year plan because we have the initial asset management plan, which is rule-based, and we have a 10-year view that is updated annually and historically has been updated annually by RTD.
Okay, I'd like to take a look at that. It'd be a good discussion to have soon. Thank you. Director Arcuri, question or comment? Please unmute yourself.
I don't know why it just looks backwards to me on my screen. To address Director Guzman's comments, Michael, since it was my question that kind of kicked us off down this road here of the most recent discussion, I am not questioning the principles behind the AMP and how it comes out of the TAM. And I am not questioning the very valid importance of this. It is deeply important. I'm questioning the huge increase in cost in just 2028, and we already have a problem in 2028. And some of it is because of these expenses. I'm just asking us to look deeper into the numbers of 2028 in comparison with the cost for the surrounding years. Perhaps there are some things that can be done, which Ms. Mackey and Mr. Yaklich did address. So I'm not suggesting that we don't take this seriously. I'm just asking that we take a much closer look at those numbers in 2028 because they seem out of range.
Okay, CFO Mackey, if you would like to respond.
Yes, I just want to make a point of clarification because you were implying, Director Arcuri, that the 2028 cash projections that we have been providing, which show negative cash balance of $138 million in 2028, you're implying that this increase in capital requirements is included in that, and it's not. So we'll have to adjust this forecast and layer on this, I think it's 860 million of increases in capital expenditures onto those cash balances. So you will see in the coming months as we refresh the budgeting views that the cash forecasts will get much worse because of this asset management plan, unless some of these items are not prioritized. I'm sorry, as long as some of these items, if some of these items are not included in the budgeting process, it would be slightly better than the 2028 increase that you're seeing, but the cash forecasts would probably get much worse.
And I assumed we didn't have the 1.8 billion that you were talking about. It's not stashed someplace that we're not aware of. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
We're going to have to earn it, find it. Look for other revenue sources. Any other questions or comments? Oh, Director Guzman.
I'll be quick. Director Arcuri, love you, and I appreciate what you said. My comment was not about that at all. I understand that looking at these finances is a short-term sketch in pencil, and it gets changed over time. And this is where we landed for this meeting. And so what looks like a bunch of money going out the window in 2028 is actually the best estimate for the work that we could prioritize before this meeting started. It doesn't mean that it's not continuing on. So I'm with you. I am absolutely with you on trying to figure out how we spread this out in the most responsible way possible while maintaining the safety and security of our agency from both risk and damage over time. My maybe brusque attempt at answering was not meant with any disrespect to anybody, but really had to do with the fact that why is this important? And this particular conversation we're having around the TAM, around the AMP, around these federal regulations is often overlooked in conversations with local government and state government because they don't know what we know as directors, which is we have this third more important federal legislation and rulemaking body that we have to answer to, and they control large pots of money that we can go after. So when we're talking about bus replacement funding or the non-urban zone funding for Boulder and Longmont, not the urban zone funding for Denver and Aurora, that we have to follow rules for those different areas of our region, and it's our responsibility to understand that. And so by pointing out US 49, by making sure that we understand why this is important from a federal perspective, and what they would tell us is go kick rocks back to Denver until you figure this out. But we do have a really great chunk of knowledge here that's before us to be able to do that same work. Is not meant to cause a fight or meant to cause any sort of frustration, just the basic understanding and putting it on the record for the public that we're not dealing with just the local, we're dealing with the federal level, and we are getting the best advice from the most impressive professionals working in Denver right now on public transportation anywhere in the state. And that's all that was. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Guzman. I see CEO Johnson, you wanted to respond.
Just one statement I wanted to make. It's important to recognize that our TAM targets is prescribed in federal statute. We do provide those to DRCOG annually, no later than the December 31st, as they are the designated MPO being the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So I just wanted to ensure that everybody recognized that important element as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Nicholson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think there's sort of two things for me going on here. One is, this is, I like to think of myself as a somewhat smart guy, and this is remarkably complicated. And the interplay between a lot of the different things that we've just been talking about in the last 10 minutes as someone who does not have a finance background, I have a hard time understanding. And I appreciate the work that staff is doing to help dunce that I am, to really get my head around this stuff. But I think it really, as because these numbers translate, as Director Guzman pointed out, into very real decisions about how much maintenance we do, where we're doing it, what service we're going to keep running, all of those sorts of things. And also into, choices that we have about where to spend money in the rest of it. I think it's really important as we go through this over the next month or two to try to give as effective of an understanding, not just to the members of the board who have varying degrees of financial literacy, but also to the public, who's going to be paying a lot of attention to this and the policy implications of the choices that we make. And so I would just highlight, I appreciate every bit of this conversation that we're having. I think that it's going to be that much more important to be able to tell this story in a way that the average person can understand, so that when we do make a decision about what we're going to cut and what we're going to not, that people have a real feeling of how bad the problem is. Because on one, by one standard, we've got $1 billion, we've got $3, $4, $5 billion worth, I forget the exact number, worth of actual capital assets. And on the other hand, we're going to be hundreds of millions of dollars in the hole in a couple of years. And so, again, maybe if you're Jack Kroll with a finance degree, you understand all of the pieces of that. I am personally still having trouble keeping up. And I don't think it's because anybody's doing a bad job. I think it's just, this is really complicated. And so I just wanted to highlight the importance of I think being able to convey this to the public as we make these decisions.
And also, Director Nicholson, I just wanted to point out, welcome to budgeting. When you say budgeting, people's eyes glaze over. However, when you put together a budget, there are, if not hundreds, but thousands of decisions that have to be made and prioritized. And it's a hard job. And it's not just adding numbers together, it's making those decisions and trying to figure out how much you can afford each year to do something. So
that's why I'm so glad that you are chair of the finance.
Yes, I know. Anytime you want to sit down and talk budget, you just let me know. It's fun. So anyway, okay. Any other comments, folks? Nope. Okay, so shall we move on to other matters? And I will be quick. Other matters, while I said this last month, I'm going to say it again this month. We are hoping to take a look at our fiscal policy at our next Finance Committee meeting. So I've been in touch with both Vice Chair Arcuri and Director Ruscia, and we do have a draft. We need to talk and figure out next steps, but you will see some version of it at the next finance meeting. So there's that. The other thing that just came up talking to some of our folks today is Broncos Ride. I had a conversation with Director Harwick, and I was under the impression, we talked, he wanted to take that project over. But after talking to Mr. Cole today, it sounds like I'm not quite sure if he's going to do it. If not, then we'll step in and try putting it on the agenda for next time around. And then one more time, budget ideas. I just want to mention to everybody, if you've got a good suggestion or idea, send it forth. Even though there was a timeline mentioned to it, if it's a good idea, we need to hear it. So thank you. Director Guzman, I see you've got your hand up.
I'm just going to be a chatty Cathy tonight. Forgive me, all. I do have a point of clarification. I'm not sure what you mean. I thought we had already dispensed with discussions around special event services, and so we never voted on something called Broncos Ride. We voted for special event services, which we have a plan for, is my understanding. So maybe Madam CEO or Chief Operating Officer Preußer might be able to enlighten us with respect to anything called the Broncos Ride, because that's just special service as far as I understand it.
Correct. And I just found out today, I assumed the same thing, quite frankly, that you are assuming, and then finding out today that I believe our senior managers are waiting for something to come out of one of our committees. So we need to investigate. I need to talk to Director Harwick. We need to organize, plan, but we need to get it moving. So more.
Madam
than-
Chair, if I may, just.
Oh,
for
yes,
point of
CEO
clarification.
Johnson.
Yes, thank you so much. I believe what Director Guzman was speaking of is in relationship to the resolution that the board had passed, whereby the staff came back with a high volume events plan, and pursuant to that high volume events plan and what was encapsulated or not encapsulated, what was included in said resolution, that there was discussion about taking this forward to the Operations Safety and Security Committee. Hence, as staff, as a collective, we have produced the high volume events plan as a whole. I have no understanding of a conversation that ensued with members of the team relative to the Broncos ride per se. So I just wanted to state that for the record. If anything, what we had sort of floating out in the ether was any follow-up action pursuant to the high volumes event plan that staff worked diligently in assembling, because pursuant to the resolution, as I'm speaking off the top of my head, it was to bring it to the board for you all to evaluate, because there were certain elements that were contained within said resolution talking about that there would be a budget transfer to have service implemented by a certain time. And I think if anything, there needs to be some clarity from the board's perspective around that, since it was something you all enacted, but staff were not working on a Broncos ride. I just want to share that for the record.
Okay, well, that's good information, and hopefully we've gotten the information in time to make this a reality. So more conversations with other board directors. Director Arcuri, I see you've got your hand up.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I still have one more.
Oh, well, okay. Director Guzman, yes.
Thank you. When are we, and I'm asking publicly, I guess more rhetorically than anything, going to talk about how many charges we're racking up on the credit card without being able to pay the balance? Because I feel like this conversation about a Broncos ride and special event services, we have to fund somehow if we're going to move forward with it. We still haven't discussed whether we're going to allow advertising back on the buses or not, and the wraps, that we have previously discussed, both at the boardroom and in the full board, but also in this committee previously. And I want to put on here for other matters that I am truly, truly concerned that we have cut revenue sources and yet continue to expect to pay for further sources, and we don't. You and I, we joke about the train and the buses in Denver and Longmont, but the reality is we have to be able to pay for it, or we're not going to be able to do anything with it, right? You can build a train track,
absolutely,
but if you don't have funding to operate it, we can't. And so I'm going to put it out here right now. I think we need to have a very serious conversation about what that looks like, because this is not just finance, this is also the planning committee. And so I want to make sure that we're consistently doing both, with the long view for planning and what we need to do, but also with the understanding that all of it's based on what rational and logical decisions we can make with finances right now. So thank you.
And I fully agree with you. And that's what we're going to be talking about at our board meeting. I mean, we've got our chair, he has specifically said several times now that he wants to either raise, he started out saying we need to look for 100 million. Last time I talked to him, he's talking about trying to look for 200 million to try to get our budget stabilized. And I agree with him. And we've got over 100 suggestions that we're going to be going through, both revenue, again, efficiencies, budget cuts, whatever. And that's the work that we're going to be looking at. So yeah, we've got a lot of hard decisions ahead of us, but we also don't stop what we're doing. So Director Arcuri, you had your hand up. You're next.
Did I just mute myself again?
No, you're unmuted. Congratulations.
Okay, all right. Okay, I finally figured it out. Karen, I think that we need to make sure that we send out to everybody the correct form for them to submit their budget ideas on, because I know that's kind of changed and floated around a little bit.
The draft that I have seen so far, I think one of the things that I wanted to talk to both you and CFO Mackey about was to work on that and to combine it so it's a workable document, easy to read, easy to follow. And so actually I wrote a note to myself. I want to follow up with you and CFO Mackey tomorrow and start figuring out step by step, how are we going to do this and merge it and make it look good and easy to make decisions. So yes, you can still bring in suggestions. I've talked to our chair. He was very clear. He said, if you've got a good idea, send it in, even if it's 2 weeks from now.
Okay, so we can even send in an email an idea or text it.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
then
that's how it
and then
started.
we will take the responsibility to make sure that it's in the correct form and format that staff needs so that they can effectively do their job.
Yes, because the last list I looked at, we had over 100 suggestions.
Yeah.
So we've got to work on that, pare it down, find the duplicates, make it manageable.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Director Arcuri, any other comments? Okay, thank you. Director Guchenritter.
Thank you. And I see Executive Manager Kroll has his hand up. I don't know if he was going to respond in any capacity.
Okay, Mr. Kroll, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll just point out that we did transmit to the board in the weekly documents email that we send out on Friday, a reminder of the deadline to submit those ideas and a link to the form that was previously provided by GMCEO Johnson and her team. It sounds like it would be helpful to recirculate that, and then we'll do so expeditiously.
Okay, thank you. Director Guchenritter.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Two things from me. One, you mentioned you've seen a list. I would love if we could see that list before our submissions are due. One, just if my idea is, if the idea is already there, I'm not going to submit the same idea. And two, that might spark initial thought, seeing other ideas. So would greatly appreciate being able to see that list.
Okay.
And then the second thing I wanted to mention is that Englewood tomorrow has their grand opening of Oxford Avenue Bridge, which is connecting a huge apartment complex over a busy thoroughfare to the RTD Englewood station.
Nice.
I would love, I'll be there, and I would love and encourage any RTD leaders that are able to attend. I know it would mean a lot to the city council and city manager of Englewood. So just wanted to extend that invite.
Well, congratulations. It sounds like it's a major investment in the city of Englewood, a good one. So
thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. CFO Mackey, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to respond to Director Guchenritter's comment. So when GMCEO Johnson distributed the survey link, she also provided a link that showed all of the individual ideas that have been submitted, and we're maintaining that. So you can go to that link so you can see what's already been submitted to make sure that you're not duplicating anything, but also reflect incremental ideas based on what's provided there. And also, Chair O'Keefe had requested groupings into 30 to 50 items, all categorized. We actually finished that last week. So that's ready to go.
Oh my, you are way too efficient. Okay. So let's talk tomorrow. I'd like to find out more about that. And would you be able to send out that master list of over 100 suggestions? I don't know if all our board members want it, but certainly Director Guchenritter does. I don't know if anybody else would like it. But yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you. Director Arcuri, I see your hand up.
Yes, please. I have a question for Director Guchenritter. Yeah, what time is this event tomorrow?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, just at the Englewood Light Rail Station?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Oh,
well, yes, I should have extended the invite to other board members as well. So thank you for that reminder.
Okay, well, looks like you're going to have a party. Should be fun. Any other comments for the good of the cause? Well, let me do the formal Okay, next meeting date, June 9th, 2026. As a reminder, the next Finance and Planning meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 9th at 5:30 p.m. At that meeting, we are currently set to vote on recommended action for scope of work and contracting authority for a boundary mapping consultant. We are also planning to hold discussions on 2026 debt refinancing, bus stop infrastructure and accessibility assessment final report, Highway 119 bus rapid transit project update, on-vehicle advertising, RFI, timely, and our fare structure and potential revenue projections. And seeing no other hands, we are adjourned at 7:41. So thank you, everybody.